Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. Mercedes have given some further hints as to their car philosophy for 2023, stating their concept has actually changed significantly, but the side pods will probably remain the same from an outside view. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. It was the Autosport Awards that were going down last night. Hamilton won the British Competition Driver of the Year. Interesting that he won this. I think it was like fan voted or something, so probably not a massive surprise. But yes, Hamilton had, obviously not a great season by his standards. Probably in terms of pure performance, he was still better than Russell. But given Russell's, situation first year in the team, even Lando Norris had a phenomenal year in the McLaren, I thought. So there were some other drivers worthy of this as well. Verstappen won the International Racing Driver of the Year. And then Hamilton does a nice little kind of a, video here. I think he's in Egypt right now. So he accepted this award remotely, let's say. But yeah, I think one of the key reasons he was given this award, or at least some of the explanation, was that he was a critical part of Mercedes developing the W13. I think this has been quite clear from what we saw at the start of the season. George Russell has disagreed a little bit with this in terms of Hamilton being the guinea pig and George not doing much from the setup side. But Hamilton was making it clear earlier in the season that he was the one doing the bulk of the work in terms of, look, he's been in the team longer, he understands the team better, and he's going to test more things out, try X, Y, Z to see if this car can improve. And I'm sure Hamilton, despite not winning a race, feels kind of proud of the fact that his work this season helped them get to a point where they could actually have a race-winning car. But next season, of course, they want to be able to win races at not just very specific circuits that suit their car, but to actually be good everywhere. Now, Toto Wolff has a rather interesting thing to say on their car philosophy changed. So as he describes, our car fundamentally changed mid-year, but you wouldn't see anything on the bodywork. So this really came in the underside of the car. We heard these rumours going around a few months ago now that there was a big upgrade to become for Mercedes, and it was going to be one that you couldn't really see. So pretty much on the floor of the car, and of course they brought the upgrade in Austin. It definitely took them forward a step or two, but still not quite as quick because, they can't change everything about the car because of, the budget cap is one of the main issues. But one of the questions still has been, are they going to keep this zero side pod idea, the zero pod, the no pod, whatever? Like, are they going to keep it, or are they going to say, you know what, we're going to call it a day, copy the Red Bull or the Ferrari? Quite clear that it's going to stay the same. He's already mentioned that, yeah, it looks the same thing as this year's car, but he has been told that it's very different underneath. It's about the airflow, the weight distribution, the aerodynamic map. Our car fundamentally changed mid-year. We changed the concept where you couldn't see anything on the bodywork. I think the narrow side pod concept is like a red herring. It's full of surprises the last time I saw it in the wind tunnel, but they told me it is not the same. So the red herring concept is quite interesting because I think maybe what he means here is next year the W14 is going to look pretty much the same as the W13 from a fundamental perspective, with the design and the shape of the car on the upper end. What's happening under the floor though, and maybe what's happening at the rear of the car as well, where they did have some issues with airflow, and of course the aero map is a key thing in the airflow as he mentions, because the drag was a key problem for them, the weight distribution as well, all these things I'm sure they're working on. The car though will look relatively similar. That's maybe the red herring, right? He's saying that, look, the car looks the same as last year's car, but it is not the same from a performance perspective. We'll have to see, of course, if this transpires in reality, but certainly Red Bull have been saying lately that the key threat they feel next season is going to come from Mercedes and not from Ferrari, not just because of the drivers, but also the motivated team. And Red Bull have made it pretty clear that they are expecting some sort of fight back, right? Even Red Bull, well, Christian Horner says they had firmly a target on their back, kind of funny in the way that Toto Wolff said that everyone's got a target on their backs next year, and that Red Bull feels like they did have a target on their back. Interesting from Horner, again, just because a lot of this stuff was, self-inflicted, right? The budget cap breach was not anyone else's fault. The issues in Brazil were not anyone else's fault. So, some of the drama that Red Bull have had has been self-inflicted, and at the end of the day, the teams are going to want to beat the best team. It's not exactly a massive surprise that the best team has a target on its back, but he has mentioned that, yeah, Mercedes will come back fighting. It's set to become a really tough season, says Horner of Red Bull. Do wonder if any other cars can get in the mix anytime soon. Again, we're expecting a three-way fight. Alpine have said, Esteban Ocon said, the new Alpine in the simulator is an absolute rocket ship. So we'll see how that goes. And Aston Martin are also making progress. I showed you guys some images the other day of their new $200 million facility they're building that's going to be open in, in the next couple of years. McLaren in a bit of a tricky spot because they've had some delays to their wind tunnel, their new wind tunnel and new facility they're building, such that the first time a car of McLaren's will be fully developed using their new setup is going to be in 2025. So this upcoming year's car car, and then even the year after that is not going to be on their new equipment, which yeah, doesn't give me much hope that Lando Norris is going to have much success in the future couple of seasons. Aston Martin, though, they are aiming high, and apparently there'll be significant differences in next year's car with an aggressive development plan. If you look across the entire grid, the Aston Martin is probably the car that made the most inroads this entire season. Started out the year with pretty much always a Q1 elimination, and as time progressed, they were able to get into Q3s consistently and score some very decent points towards the end of the year. So yeah, I don't really expect any other teams to be up there competing, but we can expect the Mercedes to look rather similar to this, but what's happening with the Venturi tunnels under the floor and a few other things are probably rather different, and Toto Wolff is certainly hoping that, yeah, the car looks the same, but it's going to behave rather different next year, and maybe a similar idea for some of the other teams elsewhere on the grid, especially now with the budget cap that restricts teams exploring other designs to their heart's content. Now, along similar lines, I do wonder what you guys think about this question from Toto Wolff. He reckons there's no way that a team in the future is going to run away with 8 championships in a row. It was a mix of a few events that allowed Mercedes to do this. Their massive head start they got back in 2014 with the turbo hybrid engine that came through. They're like, it was just way better than anyone else's, and they were able to kind of turn their engine down because their car was so good. They adapted really well to the regulation changes, played the political game very well as well, and of course, well, with the unlimited budget that they've previously had, it's been possible for them to keep up this dominance. Very impressive feat, of course, to win 8 in a row. Probably not something that should happen again, especially with the budget cap that's now in place, the testing time differentials the team have. Like, you know, theoretically things should even out. And even he went on to say that I thought was interesting that in the future, not just one team can fight for, you know, championship victories, not just 3, but maybe even 5. So he reckons that in the future, maybe a McLaren, maybe, you know, an Aston Martin could get in the mix at an Alpine to actually fight for championships at the front of the field. And he reckons over time the budget gap will allow that to happen. Probably a few years away from it happening. I think Andreas Seidel as well from McLaren said that, you know, it's not going to happen immediately, but in time he is very confident that F1 is going in the right direction in terms of competitiveness for future seasons. Some comments as well from Christian Horner on Mattia Binotto, because of course he got sacked recently, or you know, resigned, but you know, we know what that really means. He was asked actually at the Autosport Awards what his perspective on this was, and he said, yeah, not really surprised that he's gone. It'll be the 6th Ferrari team principal that I will sit opposite since I've been at Red Bull. Crazy to think about, right? Since Horner's been at Red Bull for a long time now, 15 or so years, whatever it is, since their project really started. There's been 6 team principals at Ferrari since then. Like, even as you say, it's difficult for him. Great car, great competitor for a while. I mean, look, great competitor from Red Bull's perspective, I'm sure, because, you know, they blew up their chances on many occasions. And even he was questioned, actually, about the possibility of joining Ferrari, which would be such a comedic decision, which he's obviously not going to do. But as he says, my commitment is very much with Red Bull. I've been there, obviously, since the beginning, have very close attachments. So, yeah, denying that he's going to take the Ferrari job. But there were rumours going around that at the end of last season, they were talking to Horner, or they tried to talk to Horner, and some other options as well, to try and replace Binotto after last season. They kept him one more year, now they're getting rid of him. But yeah, I think Horner would be an absolute madman to take up that offer. The other question, though, is who the replacement's going to be. Just some talk on Leclerc versus Binotto, because we heard some rumours when Binotto was sacked that one of the reasons was that Leclerc didn't get on with him anymore. There was a rift there within the camp. He didn't like to talk to Binotto much anymore, and really the relationship there wasn't particularly good. Now, apparently Leclerc did not ask for the head of the TP. Basically, like, he didn't ask for his head to be cut off and him to be executed and his position to be nullified. But, you know, he talked to Binotto, and also Vigna, right, another one of the top guys, will likely become the head of, well, basically Ferrari's sporting division. And this is, I believe, GES, as he describes there, Giuliano La Chessa, I believe refers to Gestione Sportiva here, which is GES, I suppose. So I'm pretty sure that's what it means, which I think you guys correct me in the comment section below on the kind of sporting Formula 1 part of Ferrari. So basically just going to become the new head guy, which I guess makes a fair bit of sense. But they are going to need some help if they want to compete with Red Bull and Mercedes, given that those camps probably have their ducks more in a row than Ferrari do at the present time. Might open the door for another team if they can put together a good car. But very much intrigued your thoughts on all this in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.